now. It's just a thing. What is going on, guys? Long time no see. I know last time I saw you, we were getting fantasy football talk started, and fantasy football already 3 weeks in after yesterday's beginning to Thursday night football. We now have kicked off week 3, and my oh my, what a wonderful first 2 weeks it has been overall. Don't let how the Giants played in week 2 deter you from the fact that they are absolute dog water, and by that I mean hot garbage, after only playing literally 2 solid quarters of football and leading a comeback against Arizona, which when you're playing against Joshua Dobbs, it's a doable thing. It shouldn't have taken you a massive comeback with the lack of talent that you see on that end. I mean, compared to the talent that they've had, I mean, losing Hopkins and, just taking seemingly L after L with morale in that team is just not the way to go. But that is that. We'll leave it at that for the Giants. But the rest of the week, as we all know, Sunday's what it's all about. Sunday's where it's at. And yes, I am representing my 0-2 New England Patriots. It's been quite a disappointing start to the season, but plenty of time to turn that back around with a week 3 game against a team that will be spoken about pretty soon, and I'll get into that when the time comes. But after playing against Super Bowl contenders, the Philadelphia Eagles, in week 1, Patriots kind of seemed like they were going to be competitive in the AFC East. I mean, I'm always going to tell you that they are, just being a fan of them. That's just my bias speaking. But at the same time, I would not have predicted week 1 to be as close of a game as it was. But that was then and gone, and in come the Miami Dolphins, who absolutely kicked us in the mouth. And we did not look like a professional football team. Mac Jones definitely needs some weapons. As we can see, Mac Jones, as far as I can tell from these 2 weeks, is not the issue in the New England Patriots. It's easy to point the finger at the quarterback, but the way that he's been playing, throwing for 300 yards and only throwing, picks are bad no matter how many you throw, but regardless, compared to his stats in his first 2 seasons compared to where he's at now, we're seeing a little bit of a drop-off in the amount of turnovers he's producing, but still turning it over on other players. You got Zeke coming in, but haven't really seen him produce much. Ramondre Stevenson is Ramondre. He's going to do what he does, but he can't be the whole team. We did acquire Juju, but you hear the chatter about the knee, and you start to wonder, just seeing the lack of usage from him, and then you start to question whether or not it's actually legitimate rumors that are being spread. But that being said, we took a huge L to the Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins, got to give them credit where it's due. Off to a 2-0 start. And for fantasy purposes, Tyreek Hill is showcasing why wide receivers should be in the chat for NFL MVPs. It shouldn't just be a quarterback award. But that being said, we're going to get into fantasy football. And there's plenty of other teams to talk about. We can go on and on going about the individual ones. Some of the big storylines, players dropping like absolute flies. And it hurts to say it. It's not in a joking manner, but just seeing the amount of players in just the first, it's about to be 3 weeks, so you got to give them, 2 weeks. But the amount of players that have just have season-ending injuries, I know the most recent one being Trevon Diggs, as we know, yesterday's news, but hurts to see it. You have guys who've just taken beating after beating. We know Nick Chubb, after that Monday night game, done for the season. Jerome Ford expected to carry that workload. However, they did go in, sign an old friend of theirs, Kareem Hunt, looks to join the Cleveland Browns. We don't know if he's going to join them as early as this Sunday's game, if he's even going to produce this Sunday's game. It's a guy who knows the playbook very well, knows the coach, Kevin Stefanski, so should be easy to bring him back in, has somewhat of a chemistry already with Deshaun Watson, so should be somebody that clicks right into that offense right away. But that remains to be seen. The Cleveland Browns offense has been rocky. As we know, they did take a defeat to the Pittsburgh Steelers on Monday night, and that was after they completely picked apart the Cincinnati Bengals, both on the offense and on the defense. Just having their way with them. Joe Burrow does not seem like Joe Burrow, but we do know that it is because of a calf issue that he did re-aggravate. Whether he decides to get back into form, whether he can get back into form, not if he wants to, but if he can, that is something to keep an eye out on. Cincinnati Bengals kind of woke up a little bit offensively last week, but still couldn't get the job done. We'll see if they can get it done this week. But the inclusion of T. Higgins in week 2 was promising to see after, I believe it was 7 targets, if I'm not mistaken, without a single reception after the brilliant year that he had, stepping in when Jamar Chase was out for the little bit of time that he was. T. Higgins was the man, stepped in, did his job. T. Higgins himself gets dinged up, but injuries, like I said, they happen. They are happening, continue to happen. You still have guys who are free agents without homes. All these injuries to running backs, you kind of want to see where these guys end up. Leonard Fournette, yet to have a team. You have guys working out now with teams. You have Kenyon Drake. We had Kareem Hunt, like I said, he went to Cleveland, comes back, rejoins them. Cam Akers getting traded to Minnesota Vikings is another recent storyline that just happened. Cam Akers, after being a healthy scratch, after being almost promised to be the man in the LA Rams backfield, is now gone. Now has to compete for touches with Alexander Mattison over in Minnesota. But the job in LA seems to be all for Kyren Williams, but it does seem to be a committee backfield, so we'll see how that works out. The main man, Cooper Kupp's still out, but about 2 weeks away, I would say, from a return. Coach Sean McVay did say that he should be ready for week 5, so who knows? But plenty of other storylines. I'm just trying to think of them off the top of my head right now, but the Dallas Cowboys defense is another storyline that we have to talk about, because the way that they have been playing, they are carrying the load and seemingly taking the weight off of Dak Prescott's shoulders, making him play more consistently, and he's being accurate with his play calling and he's not throwing the ball away. But that Dallas Cowboys defense has to be talked about. I know the loss to Trevon Diggs is kind of going to shake them up a little bit. We'll see. It's a next man up situation over there. You do have like Stephon Gilmore, those guys, but we do have to talk. We always talk about Dallas Cowboys. I mean, first time doing the show, but if you're an NFL fan, you do know that somebody somewhere will bring up the Dallas Cowboys to some extent, because they are just a team that you're either hyped about or you hate. But either way, they're a conversation, kind of like these boys over here. And speaking of which, you got to give them credit, going back to week 1, making the announcement that they are going to waive the 4-year period of eligibility for Hall of Fame inductions, and Tom M. F. Brady will be inducted into the New England Patriots Hall of Fame on June 12th. There it goes. June 12th, the 6th in June, to commemorate the rings. Yes, Tom Brady, 6 rings with the New England Patriots, a total of 7. I don't have to go into that, but 6 rings with the Patriots, 12, as we all know, the number on the back of his jersey that he rocked for so many years. 6/12 will be the date Tom Brady will be inducted into the New England Patriots Hall of Fame, and I look forward to that moment. What a moment it'll be. Me as a Patriots fan will absolutely shed tears like a little baby girl, but it'll be definitely a sight to see. It was a sight to see when he was there for week 1, even getting into the lighthouse, being the first person to do whatever it is that they do in that lighthouse. Like, it's a brand new thing, I guess, but whatever. Tom Brady, first one to be in there, and who better than the man himself? I love that we're still honoring this man to this day, even after he went to a whole other team for a couple of years, but he is the man. So, with that being said, that is the NFL talk. Well, we still have to talk about guys like the 2-0s. Who would have thought Baker Mayfield will be leading the Tampa Bay Buccaneers after filling in the shoes of the man I just spoke about, Tom Brady? What a good segue without me even realizing it. Baker Mayfield has led that offense to a 2-0 start. How freaking impressive. Baker Mayfield, it seemed like the world wrote him off just a couple seasons ago, even last season, up until he had that bit of resurgence with the LA Rams. now here in Tampa, just being a star. He's doing Baker things, playing like Oklahoma Baker, which is absolute insanity. It's a nice sight to see. It's a welcoming sight. It's a division that I really don't care too much for, so it doesn't really have much of my investment, but it's football and you got to tune in either way. Mike Evans just absolutely carrying that load offensively. Chris Godwin being the consistent man that he is, but running game has to start getting going. We do know Rashad White did have a bit of a better game, but they still have to produce a lot more, and the offensive line has to keep Baker Mayfield upright, and we see the result of keeping Baker Mayfield upright is getting wins. So a 2-0 start for them, which is very, very impressive. Dolphins 2-0. Not impressive, kind of expected, I would say, but you do have other teams. I'm trying to think of the other 2-0s. You do have the Eagles 2-0, which is, we know they are the Eagles and they do Eagle things, but it's them. A surprising stat. Kansas City loses week 1, so Kansas City cannot have an undefeated season. Oh, Bull Crimea River. Kansas City still a powerhouse team. A bit of a slow start offensively to the season, which is kind of scary. Are we seeing the decline of Patrick Mahomes, or does he just need one more offensive weapon to just remind him that he's Patrick Mahomes? But who knows? That remains to be seen. Plenty of free agents there without a home, like I said, both receiving, both running backs. So you got to find something. You got to give them a target. We do see Travis Kelce returning to the offense did help them, so it gave them a win. 17-9, I believe, was the final score against the Jags last week. Defensive game up until the very, very end. But week before, taking that huge loss to the Detroit Lions. Detroit Lions just playing some really, really good football offensively. They are lights out defensively. Just got to get it together just to complete that team. But guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs yet to hit his full potential after being promised that he was going to be something special and that he's a must-watch when he's on the field. My opinion, put him on the field then if you want us to see him. I don't want to see him on the bench. I get it. David Montgomery is a solid running back, both in fantasy, which we're going to get into, I promise. But both in fantasy and in real life, David Montgomery, a bruiser back who is capable of just grounding and pounding. He's also a good pass-catching running back in the moments that you need him. So, figures, you still got to figure out how to utilize all this star talent. Guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown, guys like Craig Reynolds, who just go off every once in a while, they'll shock you. But David Montgomery going down in week 2. Now Jahmyr Gibbs kind of has no choice but to be the guy, and Lions offense has no choice but to use him, so we'll see how that works. But, as a member of the Alabama running back group, Roll Tide all the way. We know that. I'm not going to sit here and talk about that. We'll talk about college football, I promise. But right now, Roll Tide all the way. Jahmyr Gibbs, it's a nice sight to see. Who knows what's going to happen? But I anticipate the Detroit Lions incorporating him a lot more without David Montgomery. And hopefully he decides to show up and show us why he is Jahmyr Gibbs and why he was so highly touted. This is a guy who I believe the Detroit Lions traded up to get. So kind of weird that they're not using him as much as I thought they would be. And, that's just 2 weeks in. So he's got plenty of time to figure it out. But a rookie running back that is showing us why he was drafted as high as he was, Bijan Robinson. Yes, I figured he was going to be the baller that he is. Bijan has been a freak, both in fantasy, both on the field. He is it's juke move after juke move. He is taking defenders' ankles night after night, week after week. This guy is an absolute animal, both in the pass-catching game, both in the run game. He can shake you. He can absolutely dominate you, being a big back that he is. This is a guy that's a generational talent. I want to say this is going to be something special. I promise you, you're going to want to tune into Atlanta Falcons football, which is kind of weird to say with me rocking this hat, but hey, 28-3, baby, so not much to hate on Atlanta. But You do gotta love Bijan Robinson stepping up and being the man there. Yes, after I believe they hold about 4 or 5 running backs on that roster. Cordell Patterson obviously a little bit dinged up now, but you do have Tyler Algier, who seemed to be the man in week 1, but Bijan still finding his way into that offense in week 1, but then just taking absolute death grip on that running back 1 spot in Atlanta and just putting up the numbers. This guy is running his ass off. This guy is keeping Atlanta relatively in games, but God, can't talk about how special this guy is. You can't talk about it enough, as a matter of fact. But rookie QBs in the league, Bryce Young, another injury that's there, not expected to play this week after an ankle injury. Will keep him out. Hasn't practiced, but I don't expect it to be a long-term injury. At least I hope not. Another Roll Tide member who is the number 1 overall pick of this draft class, so I want to see what he can do, maximize his talents, but kind of hard to do that in a team like Carolina. Carolina does have some weapons relatively, but it's that offensive line that just can't keep Bryce Young up. So who knows what's going to happen there, and we have yet to see. I believe it's going to be, if I'm not mistaken, I couldn't really point the finger on who the backup is for Bryce Young. I want to say it's Andy Dalton. Yes, it is Andy Dalton. TCU alum, expected to make his first start this season. The backup, now the starter. We'll see what happens there for Carolina. But another rookie quarterback, you got to go back to Atlanta. You're going Desmond Ridder, who kind of hit a little bit of a bright spot at the end of last season. We had Marcus Mariota taking over for basically the majority of the season after the bye week. They turned to Desmond Ridder, now the man in Atlanta. But is he really the man? Is he the one that they got to put all that bank in? I'm not sure. But you do have guys like CJ Stroud up in Houston, or down in Houston, however you want to look at it. But the new Texans quarterback, the Ohio State product, is now absolutely balling. It seems like, I can't say the Texans are balling, but CJ Stroud is absolutely progressing. It seems each week he's just getting better. He is learning the game of football, professional football. I mean, obviously a college quarterback, but learning the pro level. And he is learning fast. He is adapting quickly. He is incorporating the new wide receiver 1 there, Nico Collins, but also using his weapons like Tank Dell. Damian Pierce kind of got taken away from the offense, but still giving him a couple of touches a game. I believe he's averaging about 14, 15 a game. Hasn't produced like the man he was last season, but it's only a matter of time before he remembers who he is. And that wide receiver group, John Mechie playing, I believe it was week 2, he got his debut after battling, not sure what disease. I want to say it was, I can't even put, between lymphoma or leukemia, but definitely a cancer survivor. Happy to see him on that field, and hope to see him in longevity, and hope to see him just be an absolute stud in that offense. I loved watching him in Alabama. Of course, I'm just going to give all these shout outs to my Alabama guys, but John Mechie was heartbreaking to see after he was drafted in the prior draft class. I had so much hope and so much, I can't even put words right now. But I just wanted to see him really, really bad in the NFL. Now actually being able to see him in the NFL. I believe all Alabama wide receivers are just studs. You look at the transitions that they make from playing for Bama, playing for Nick Saban, to the NFL and the coaches they've had, even starting with the Julio Jones to now the Amari Coopers and Calvin Ridleys of the world. So you got to give them their credit. Whatever wide receiver coach Alabama's got is just an absolute animal. Nick Saban, no stranger to being credited for being the GOAT. One of the greatest college football coaches, in my opinion, of all time. Sorry, Bear Bryant, but he's the man there, and we're seeing it. You have guys, Calvin Ridley, another big story that I forgot to mention. Calvin Ridley coming back from a gambling suspension. Now all these guys are getting hit with suspensions left and right for gambling. 6 games to a year, but the return of Calvin Ridley was the return of Calvin Ridley. The man seemed to be Trevor Lawrence's favorite target in week 1. Took a little bit of a drop off in week 2, but we'll see if he can turn it around in week 3, at least for fantasy purposes. I hope so. In the words of Kodak Black, yes, I hope Calvin Ridley can make it work. He's got a tough task at hand going up against Houston's young and scrappy corners. But Trevor Lawrence is proving why he was so highly touted, and he is keeping that Jaguars offense in every single game, that Jaguars team in every single game. The Jaguars defense kind of helping him out here and there, but they do need to get clicking. They do need to get going and get going quick. That is a very tough division that'll be almost impossible to get out of, so long as guys like the Chiefs just keep balling, and you got to find a way to win. You got to make wins happen, and I believe now adding guys like Calvin Ridley, you have Evan Ingram, who is being as consistent as he is. You have Christian Kirk, who went off last week. He seemed to be the man for Trevor Lawrence in week 2, but we'll see who he favorites, if he does favorite either or. But you can't forget guys like Zay Jones. Zay Jones a little bit dinged up, but he is that third wide receiver that completes that core. With the inclusion of Evan Ingram, like I said, the running back group led by Travis Etienne, it's a star-studded lineup, and it is a lineup capable of winning, capable of making a deep playoff run, in my opinion. So it remains to be seen. But going back to the credit where credit is due, Calvin Ridley showed why he's the man, why the Jaguars made the trade that they did to go and get him. But he took that drop off. Will he return? Will he come back to form? Who knows? My guess, I hope so. For fantasy purposes, I hope so. But that will definitely cut it for the NFL chat, because I got something fun for you guys. And we're going to flip the script now. We're going to keep it talking about football, but we are going to jump to the world of imagination. And it is going to be a fantasy football segment. So one of the things I wanted to try, and it's kind of an idea that I have in mind, is I kind of want to make an overreaction segment, and I want this to be a very interactive thing with my subscribers, with anybody who just wants to get in there and talk shit about their team, talk about their fantasy team. You can vent, you can react to how bad your team is doing in fantasy, in real life. I can talk about these guys on and on. I'm going to tell you every year, Super Bowl champions, baby. We're going to get one without Tom Brady. I promise you, before I die, we will win a ring without Tom Brady. Mark my words. There's your overreaction for a New England Patriots fan. So, for me, I went out, reached out to all my leagues. I am in a total of 5 leagues by my count. 5 leagues. Yes, it is impressive. I'm not going to talk about all of them, just the ones that are pretty important to me. So, with that being said, I do have some special guests who decided to opt in, and they wanted to be a part of this to kind of test this out. So we're going to give it a try. The first one is a week 1 overreaction from those JETS SUCK suck. But sorry, Tony, that is all out of love. But yes, Tony from my league with my homeboy Nick, headband man White. So my goal is to bring Nick on, because trust me when I say you're gonna want him on, you're gonna want his personality. So I hope to have it on the show soon. Nick, if you are a watcher of my show, please get on it. Please. That is the ultimate hype man. That is the ultimate talker of all things, of anything. But Nick's the guy. Tony, shout out to you. Thank you for being my first subject in this segment. Let's take a look at what Tony has to say about those Jets.
It has not been a good week. I told Keith I'm going to do this, but you have to be okay with a lot of whining and complaining and possibly some ugly crying. I will try to refrain myself from doing that. So, my favorite team is the Jets, and yesterday was a dark day. We all know what happened. I don't have to go into a lot, but we also do know what happened after. We got a very good win against Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. And here is my overreaction to that. First of all, I had some very dark thoughts yesterday around 9:30 p.m. But thank God, I already talked to my counselor, and I'm doing good. Nothing's going to happen. So Aaron's Achilles broke, but here comes my good friend, mother lover, Zach Wilson, back into the fold, hopefully to do something good for our Jets. Honestly, all he needs is to get the ball to Garrett Wilson, to Alan Lazard, into that receiving core, and we'll be okay. And just keep the ball to Dalvin Cook and Breece Hall. And I'm thinking maybe we could go 10-6. I'm sorry, I forgot to change. 10-7, maybe. I'll do 10-7. I'll do 10-7 because I think we could have a very good season, even though we lost Aaron. Again, I'm sorry if my voice breaks. I am still having a difficult time. But I do think we'll have a good season. That is my overreaction. I do think that after yesterday's win against one of the best teams in the IFC, we have a chance. We could have a chance, and I believe we will have a better than average season. We could have a great season with Aaron, but I'm guessing we'll have a better than average season with Zach Wilson and a very good defense. So yeah, that's my reaction.
Tony, I got you, bro. I got you, no worries. You can wipe your tears and you can feel safe and sleep peacefully at night knowing that your Jets will just be right where they were always meant to be. Dead last in that division, having to rely on Zach Wilson to lead the way. I'm just kidding. But it is definitely devastating to see Aaron Rodgers go down with that horrible injury after only playing four snaps. 4 snaps. And that's all it took to rupture his ACL. But whatever. Stuff happens, and whether it's meant for something bigger, for a larger comeback, minor setback, bigger comeback, whether this is just his calling to just call it quits. This is Father Time saying you just can't do it anymore, even though Rodgers is insisting that he is definitely going to be ready. He is going to heal from this. He is going to return. He's promising, or he's hoping, January. By God, bro, this is a 40-year-old man speaking, and bodies heal different by age, and I hope he realizes that. I do want to see it. I want to see this Jets team with Aaron Rodgers in the fold, what they can be, because I'm sure it was going to be something special. I'm pretty sure I went out there and said it myself, that that's going to be a competitive team. We know Aaron Rodgers can be a stud when he's on the field. He had that young talent. He brought over the comfort in Alan Lazard, in Randall Cobb, and then he had the promising young receiver, the Rookie of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year, in Garrett Wilson. Come on now. This guy was just going to go nuts. And whether the Jets were always meant to win that game on September 11th against Buffalo, or whether they just wanted to win it more that Aaron Rodgers was no longer there, it happened. And the Jets they took that win, and then they went and did Jet things and go out and lose, and now are 1-1, having to face my boys, the New England Patriots, this Sunday. That's why I wanted to wait to say it, because I wanted to hear Tony first. And now that I hope my Patriots beat you by 30, because I want an even better overreaction video from you. But with all that being said, I wish Aaron the best. I know I gave him a lot of shit comparing him to Brett Favre, but Aaron Rodgers doesn't deserve any backlash, or he just deserves a speedy recovery. So hope he gets it, and I'm not going to say I want the Jets to win because of it, because I will never say that, but I love Aaron Rodgers. Hope you heal up. And Tony, I don't know what to tell you, bro. You might have to abandon ship, because it's looking rough out there for you, but did make some very good points. Just gotta get in there. Zach Wilson just can't be turning that ball over. He's gotta be consistent. He's gotta make smart plays, make smart decisions. You have the players to do it. You got Dalvin Cook in the backfield now, along with Breece Hall, who Breece Hall was handling the workload just fine on his own before they included Dalvin Cook in the mix. Now that Dalvin Cook's in the mix, you have a double workhorse, so you can utilize that. You gotta run the ball more. You've gotta use Dalvin Cook more. If he's healthy, you gotta use him more. You gotta keep Breece Hall on the field as well, if he's good for it, you gotta rest him as well. You gotta know what to do. I can't be a head coach. Only Robert Saleh can do that. But what I can say is that Zach Wilson just has to take every lesson that Aaron Rodgers taught him and absolutely utilize it. I watched Hard Knocks, so I can tell you, I know Zach Wilson must have gotten an earful of advice from A-Rod. So hopefully he does use it. It was kind of shaky that first start, but let's see what happens in this one. It was also shaky week 1, so he played a whole game playing just like he did in this 3 quarters and 12 minutes that he did for week 1. But Zach Wilson's just got to show more promise. He has potential. He was so highly touted. He was sought after from BYU, and they Jets went and got him with an early pick, and now you got to show for it. You have the players. It's not an excuse. You got to find a way to win, and hopefully it's not against my New England Patriots where you figure that out. So with that being said, we do have another guest. So this one is going to be a week 2 overreaction, and it comes from my good friend in the same league. That is Slick Rick Ricardo. Yes, you're going to hear him talking about this team that just, like I said, is in everybody's ear, whether you want to hear it or not, but it's them boys in Dallas. Here's Ricky to talk about his team, both in fantasy and in real life. This is from a Cowboys perspective.
Let's go. Thank you, Keith, for inviting me to your great show. I'm beyond excited how the Cowboys look. First off, Micah Parsons is the best football player right now, obviously. And Dak Prescott is playing great football. I will actually give credit to Mike McCarthy, coaching game plan. And again, this defense looks scary. It's not only Micah Parsons, because you can double him. You can get D-Law, you can get Dorrance Armstrong, you can get Diggs outside, you can get even Gilmore, as you know, your favorite cornerback from the Patriots. I think you won the Super Bowl with him. I'm beyond excited. It's not our reaction. The Cowboys are for real. I think this is our year. Now, moving to your Patriots, I'm a fan of Mac Jones and their new offense and their new style, how they're playing. And I think you guys are going to beat the Jets this weekend. And in talking about fantasy, I'm 1-on-1 in our freaking league. I know I did something yesterday that nobody liked, but I actually think I have the higher upside in that trade. I don't care what anybody said, because first off, I'm always top 3 or top 4 every year in that league. And let's go. I'm excited. Like I said, the Cowboys are for real and key. Keep doing what you're doing. I'm a fan of your channel. And don't forget to subscribe, everybody. I'm excited for what you're doing in this little project. And again, thank you for inviting me. Have a great day.
Thank you for the support, Ricky. And I hope you guys all follow in his advice and subscribe, comment, and support this channel, because this is just the beginning. Yep, I am excited as well to see what my project is going to look like at the end. So who knows? But thank you, Ricky, for showing love. And also, it is a definite overreaction. I do think that the Cowboys are good. Like you said, that defense is playing ungodly. And we do have to look at the 2 teams they played. So with that being said, you did play the Jets. You did play the Giants. So now with some stiff competition, having to play an actual football team, I am curious to see what these Dallas Cowboys can do. So, who stands in their way this week? I'm actually trying to look out because I'm curious myself. So, with that being said, I see here the Dallas Cowboys have a date with the Arizona Cardinals. So, Ricky, damn you, because I do believe that your team is going to go 3-0 after this. I think they will manhandle the Arizona Cardinals. Cardinals defense is scrappy. We can't forget that. But do I think the Cowboys defense, now led by Micah Parsons, as we know, we saw, like I mentioned, Trevon Diggs. This was sent to me before the Trevon Diggs injury. Keep that in mind. So, how do they readjust? You got to turn to their leader, undoubtedly, on that defense. It is Micah Parsons. So, how do you do that? Micah Parsons, eat that Cardinals offensive line alive, and you got to attack Joshua Dobbs. That's all it is. That's all it is, and you're 3-0 at Dallas Cowboys. Dak doesn't even have to show up on the field if the Cowboys defense plays the way that it does. Mark my words. But you do need a cowboy, or you do need a quarterback on that field. So, Joshua Dobbs, I do believe you are in danger. So, just like we saw the face of Daniel Jones looking at that 49ers defense last night, you also have to look at that Cowboys defense in the same way, because they are legit. And if you give them an open hole to exploit the offensive line, they will break through. Micah Parsons will make you regret it. And like he said, Gilly has to be the next man up. Stephon Gilmore did leave the Patriots, did give us a Super Bowl, by the way. So, Ricky, you were right on that. Was a part of our Super Bowl team. But after leaving us for Indy, I can't say that I have a love for him. So now that he's in Dallas, even less. But he is the truth. He is somebody capable of filling the shoes of Trevon Diggs. So he can lead that cornerback group, definitely, I would say. So Dak Prescott just has to not make turnovers. If Dak can keep from throwing those picks and giving the defense the ball on the other end, that Cowboys team, in Ricky's words, will be for real. So I wouldn't sleep on what he said, but I also would call it a reach to say that that team is a deadlock for being one of the best in the NFL. Granted, 2 weeks they've showed it, but like I said, you have to look at the teams they played. You dropped 40 on the New York Giants, okay? That's cute. The 49ers just manhandled them as well. Had it not been for a late surge from Danny Jones at the end of week 2 in the second half, the Cardinals would have feasted on them too, because they were. But like I said, Joshua Dobbs is a beatable thing. The Arizona Cardinals now in general. Let me not shit on Joshua Dobbs so much. The Arizona Cardinals are a very beatable team. They're showing it. It's not an opinion. It is just what I am seeing on the field. So, with all that said, Dallas Cowboys can be for real, but it's every single year that we hear this. So, until they show for it, until they actually have the proof, you can win the division. That's cute, but your division is not what it was. Let's see, with, excluding the Washington Commanders, who are 2-0 and are possibly the only team competing with you right now in that division, and obviously the Eagles. But that 3-man group will become a 2-man group that does become the 1-man show, whoever decides to come out of that division. I can't say I see the New York Giants coming out of that division as much as I've given them crap this whole show. But what I can say is that I do see Dallas fighting for it, because, let's be honest, it is a winnable division in general. So Cowboys, Eagles, until they play each other, then we'll kind of see who the big dog is in that conference. But until then, you can only go based off the Giants and the Jets games that the Cowboys have had. And let me tell you, 2 poor offenses back to back, it gives you that kind of juice. So they look good. They do look good. I can't deny it. You've got about, I want to say, 7 sacks in the 2 games, and you are forcing turnovers. You've, I believe, collected 3 interceptions in the 2 weeks. So credit where credit is due. Dallas is for real. But come on, Ricky. Come on. It's the same old story. So, but let's see. You know that you're next. After Tony, those boys, you got to play us. So we'll see. I want your overreaction video to that too. So if I can't beat either of you guys, then you guys might just have to take ownership of this show. But until then, Tony, this week right here, Jets Pates, I'm down. So with that being said, another thing, Ricky did mention he did something in the league that not a lot of people were fond of. And I'm going to break that down for you, give you a little bit of insight. In this league, Ricky did make a trade. He decided to give up, and I'm looking down because I'm looking at it right here, trading away George Pickens, Kirk Cousins, and Chris Olave. Olave, the wide receiver, blowing up in New Orleans. He blew up last year. He was the man while Michael Thomas was out. Now that Michael Thomas is in, he's kind of taken some of the load off, but got to keep in mind, Michael Thomas is a health risk. So who steps up for that? Chris Olave. Chris Olave has been doing solid work. Can't forget Rashid Shaheed. So between those 3, that is a definite young, promising receiving core. And Derek Carr has the quote-unquote arm for it. We did see him deliver that big play week 1 to get that win. Throwing it to Rashid Shaheed, that's speedy wide receiver. So, like I said, Ricky trades away George Pickens, Kirk Cousins, and Chris Olave to acquire DJ Moore, acquires Justin Fields and Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers, the rookie wide receiver in Baltimore, who has kind of been turning it on over there in Baltimore. But we know Lamar Jackson doesn't really have too much of a love for his wide receivers. He does tend to favor Mark Andrews, the tight end, a lot more with reason. Mark Andrews is probably one of the top 2 tight ends in the league besides Travis Kelce. So you got to give him his flowers there. And Lamar Jackson sometimes just like to take the ball and run. But when you got speed like that, when you got power, when you have size the way that Lamar Jackson does, and you're a dual threat, do what you got to do, man. Lamar Jackson, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You just got to stay up, man. You got to stay healthy. Love me some Lamar Jackson. He is a very exciting player to watch on the field. Because he's on the field, yes, I'm talking to you, Detroit Lions. Play Jahmyr Gibbs, damn it. But all that aside, Ricky decides to make another trade, giving up young, promising rookie running back Zach Charbonnet to acquire Jonathan Taylor. Yes, Jonathan Taylor, about, I want to say, a week from returning from the PUP list. We know Jonathan Taylor is not injured that we know of, but the whole contract situation has forced Indy's hand to put him on the PUP list to start the year. So Week 4 is going to be when that PUP list is up. So what they do with him in the meantime is yet to be seen. We do have Zach Moss leading the way in that Indy backfield. Zach Moss has been proven capable of leading that Indy backfield. Deion Jackson had his chance and he folded like a lawn chair. So Deion Jackson probably not expected to be in the mix. Look for Indy to either make amends with Jonathan Taylor or look for a veteran running back like a Leonard Fournette, like I mentioned before. Plenty of free agents out there, but you know, Anthony Richardson is another rookie quarterback who we've yet to mention out of the University of Florida, who has shown a lot of promise, however, got knocked out of last week's game. I want to say it was week 2. Yes, with a concussion, possible concussion. However, he, I believe, has returned to practice since. So kind of look for him to battle to start this week. But if he can't, look for, I believe it is Gardner Minshew who is backing him up. So whether it's Minshew, whether it's Anthony Richardson, you best believe the Colts are in a lot of trouble. But it is what it is. The Colts are going to do what they do. Whether it's Minshew, whether it's Richardson, we do know the man of the hour, at least in fantasy. I'm going to get into it, but Michael Pittman Jr., we are going to discuss, has tried to shoulder the load. But Indy's been a bit of an interesting team to watch, both on the offense and on the defense. They can stay in the game. They won't drop 30 on you, but they'll make you only drop about maybe 16, couple points on them. They're hard to score against, and they kind of have trouble scoring, so it's that conundrum there. It's a bit of a battle, but you know, they're going to struggle all season like they do, but they are a scrappy team who I do not count out of that division just because it doesn't necessarily have the heavy manpower of a clear-cut winner from there. But what I can tell you is that the Jonathan Taylor situation is yet to be cleared. So a lot of smoke and mirrors going on over there, and we're about a week away from finding out what's going to really happen. If Jonathan Taylor does decide, or if the Colts do decide Jonathan Taylor's no longer the man there and he's no longer needed, what team is going to go out and search for him? Like I mentioned, we do have season-ending injuries in a couple of teams who could use one. Like I said, Nick Chubb, but Kareem Hunt's been filling those shoes. We do have Jonathan Taylor, so who knows? Who knows where Jonathan Taylor will end up? It could be Baltimore. It could be the Niners to back up a team, or who knows? He could be the future. I know there was talks of possibly the Dolphins acquiring him, but when you have about 7 running backs on your team, it's kind of hard to see them doing that unless they're willing to give one of them up. However, that is definitely going to be something that we do need to keep an eye out on as sports fans. But like I said, thank you, Ricky, for that. I appreciate it. That is going to wrap up our overreaction segment. And now we are going to talk my fantasy football. I'm gonna do some venting. I'm just gonna leave some time just to complain about the things that I do, and talk about the ups and downs of playing fantasy football, because there are a lot of ups, but there are a lot of downs as well. Like I said, I am a member of a total of 5 fantasy football leagues. Yes, not John Cena, you can see him, but it's 5 fantasy football leagues in total. It's incredible that I keep up with it all, but it's just what I like to do around this time of the year. It's one of my favorite parts of the year, is spending all my money to not make any money in return and get my ass kicked a couple of times, but I get to talk shit along the way if I do manage to win. And let's just break down some of my teams that I have, and I'm gonna throw them on the screen over there so I can kind of relate to some of you guys, and you guys can give me your opinions on them. If there's a name there that I should trade, or who I should go after with the weapons that I do have. But I'll tell you who I'm not gonna get rid of, and that is my first overall pick at pick number 5. I did manage to get in this league Tyreek the Cheetah Hill. Tyreek definitely caught fire week 1 and did things that I never would have thought he would do. So I couldn't put into words exactly what he did for my team in week 1, but this video definitely can. So
call an ambulance! Call an ambulance! But not for me!
Yeah, that about sums it up. I went from being down, I want to say last time I checked it was about 30 plus points going into the 4 o'clock slate games. Of course, that was the Dolphins game against the Chargers, in which my boy Tyreek Hill went off, giving me, like I said, 44.5 points, 11 catches for 215 yards with 2 total touchdowns. Yes, the man is the reason that I got the highest score of the week in 3 out of 5 of my leagues. So ridiculous to even think that it was possible, because everybody else was just borderline mid, aside from Deshaun Watson, who put up his own 20 points, and Jake Elliott, my kicker, giving me 18, which, Jake Elliott, you are a kicking machine. Boy, just keep kicking. Eagles, please stop scoring touchdowns and just let this man kick field goals all game long. Just win games 30-0 off of 10 field goal kicks, and I will be the happiest woman on the planet all season long. But Jake Elliott, I'm going to ride with you till the wheels fall off, my friend. Jake Elliott giving me 18, like I said, following that performance up with another 11 points. So Jake Elliott, you are phenomenal. Probably one of my top scorers, as embarrassing as it is to say. Definitely within the top 5 for sure. So a kicker, I'll put it in retrospect. A kicker giving you a total of 29 points in 2 weeks is absolutely redonkulous. It is the reason why, position-wise, he is ranked number 1, averaging 14.5 points a game from a kicking position. Can you imagine that? Getting at least, if I'm checking it right, 4 field goal kicks in game 1, 3 field goal kicks, making 2 of those 3 in week 2 with 4 extra points at hand. But Jake Elliott is just incredible, absolutely phenomenal, giving me that. But also give a shout out to week 1 for the Ravens defense, who put up 12 for me, giving me a fumble recovery and allowing 9 points to the Houston Texans offense. So maybe I kind of was wrong about CJ Stroud, but CJ Stroud did have a promising game in week 2. I promise you that. If you go back and you check it, he did. But yes, that did win me my week 1 matchup. But just to show you how quickly, actually, no, I'm going to ride this high and I'm going to go with all my other leagues. I did manage to scrape out a bunch of other wins in my other league, winning all 5 leagues in week 1. So happy to see it. High score from Tyreek Hill in, like I said, I want to say it was 3 out of my 5 total leagues. Definitely 2 for sure, giving me that high score. So Tyreek Hill was a good investment. I got him at the 5 spot in one of my leagues, got him at the 10 spot in one of my leagues. So he's been a good investment through 2 weeks. He kind of took a step back in week 2. I think he only gave me 15 points, which a player who you say he only gave me 15 points, that just tells you the caliber of player that he is. every week projected to get 20 fantasy points, which if you do a PPR league, if you know fantasy football, that is just to absolutely be projected that no matter what, every single week, ESPN is just telling you this guy needs to be in your lineup. So he will be in my lineup till the end of time. Now, enough of that, but one of the things that I like to do in fantasy football is draft players from you guessed it, the University of Alabama. So having guys like Calvin Ridley in one of my leagues kind of makes me very, very happy. As I know, I told you guys week 1 he went off, but to tell you exactly how much he went off, collected 8 receptions for 101 yards and a touchdown to match Tyreek Hill's 46 points in that league. Calvin Ridley giving me 25 of his own points. So domination all the way. In that league, I also have Danny Jones. So Danny Jones, that is a big middle finger to you. You need to get your head out of your ass and start playing more second half Arizona Cardinals football the whole season if I want to win a league. But I don't like the Giants, so if he doesn't succeed, I can't take it to heart and I won't be offended. I can always get another quarterback in fantasy. So with that being said, till I do, Danny Jones, wake up, please. Only giving me 3 points this game against the San Francisco 49ers. I knew that defense was good. I was hesitant to start him at first, but a super flex league where you get 2 quarterback spots, possibly, you thought, hey, let me get this as an easy route. But what does he do? He gives me 3 points after giving me a 32-point game in week 2. That was just to mark how incredible his second half comeback was against the Cardinals last week. Yeah, he ended up with 321 yards to match 3 total touchdowns, only threw 1 pick. So only threw 1 pick yesterday, but only scored 13. So need a lot more out of you, Danny Jones. But the Giants, I don't need you to win. I just need Danny Jones to do good. Till then, in that league, that is definitely somebody who is a droppable player. But I will throw these teams on the screen there for you just so you can see. But going back into the Alabama theme of things, Josh Jacobs, my RB1, Roll Tide. A blow-up season last year, yet to take that step this season. I'm waiting on it, and I know it's coming. Just got to have one solid week. I don't know if Jimmy G was a decline from Derek Carr, was an upgrade from Derek Carr. This team is kind of just playing the same, but I need to see more ground game from Josh Jacobs and less 500 reception games from Devontae Adams. We can rely on Devontae Adams. It's nice to rely on him. He's a reliable target. You could throw to him. But you gotta run the damn ball if you're gonna win a game. I will tell you that because the defenses will read that you are gonna pass every damn time. Jimmy G, and if you're down 30, you're obviously gonna throw. So how do you do that? How do you navigate away from that? Well, you incorporate the running game to get you some first downs, to kind of mix up your play calling so that the defense doesn't know what to expect, so that you can be more spontaneous and you can call a wider variety of plays. I don't know. I'm not a fucking offensive coordinator. I'm just a person who watches the sport. But I'm going to tell you that's what it takes to win. And it doesn't take some flash in the pan, one play, fumble, pick six, whatever bullshit you want to rule it to beat the New England Patriots last season the way you did with that Chandler Jones ridiculous play. It's going to take a lot more than that because you don't play the New England Patriots 17 times a week. So I'm going to tell you that right now. Or 17 weeks straight. That's what I meant. So you understand. Either way, Vegas Raiders, you gotta wake up. Josh Jacobs, you gotta get it going, man. Please. I beg of you. As a fantasy fan and as an Alabama fan, Roll Tide, Josh Jacobs, if you are a fan of this, first of all, get the fuck on the show. Second of all, wake up and we need you to ball out. Sincerely, a very depressed fantasy football fan. But nonetheless, did manage to get a win in week 1 from every single league I'm in. So that is a 5-0 start to the season. That was followed by an 0-5 start to the season, losing every league last week. So from week 1 to go 5-0 to week 2 going 0-5. I now sit at a 500 record of 5-5 through the 2 weeks. So, with that being said, this is a desperate cry for help. Anybody with fantasy advice can give me whatever they like. But having to rely on guys, I'm sorry, like Deshaun Watson at the quarterback position in one of my leagues when I have no other backup right now is concerning, but it does show that I have confidence in Deshaun Watson, not to go to a massage parlor, but in the football field to get me some points and to actually make use of this decent Cleveland Browns offense. I know there is no longer Nick Chubb to fill that big running game that they relied on so heavily. It is now Jerome Ford's backfield to manage. So, how much they want to rely on him, I'm gonna have to wait till Sunday to see that. But fantasy purposes, in one of my leagues, I do hold Amari Cooper, so you know I need that man to go off. I'd like to do the QB wide receiver pairing. Just depends on which quarterback I end up with. I ended up with Deshaun Watson, so I had to pair him with the boy Amari Cooper. Last season, I tried to do a Tua and Jalen Waddle thing. It worked out towards the end. It got me to the playoffs, but it got me a first round exit. So Deshaun Watson is not a quarterback I really, really necessarily have faith in to get me 17 weeks of football, but at least through the 2 weeks he's been there. He was there week 1. He had a good week 1. Followed that up with a very shaky week 2, giving me 11 points. Joe Mixon, like I said, that Bengals offense is absolutely... There's not a word for how bad they've been for 2 weeks. But Joe Mixon was still finding his way. Last week, giving me a total of 13.5 points. He followed up a 10-point performance. So happy to see that. My other boy, Ramondre Stevenson, giving me 14 in week 1. Following that up with giving me 15 in week 2. So giving me that 15-point average more or less is what I like to see. But I would like to see more yardage out of him in the run game, only totaling 50 last week. I believe the week before that, only another 40. So, I'm sorry, 25, even worse. So, yes, definitely want to see more out of a New England Patriot like Ramondre Stevenson, who was so heavily utilized last season. I don't know what happened. That Zeke is definitely not the issue because they're not even using Zeke the way that I figured they would, being a goal line back. It's just been Ramondre whenever they get the chance, and then whoever wants to step up in that Patriots offense. It seems to be that they're throwing it to Hunter Henry more than they're throwing it to anybody else, with reason, because nobody else seems to have hands on that offense. It's a bunch of people just with either 2 left feet or just 2 legs and no arms, because nobody's catching, nobody's making the plays that they should, and it's just been sloppy all around. Turnovers for no reason on horrible mistakes. But our offensive play calling, I will give credit where credit is due. It is much, much better than it was before. That's because we have an actual offensive coordinator calling plays. You see how that works? You see how when you have somebody who knows offense calling offensive plays, how it kind of clicks? But then when you have a dipshit like Matt Patricia calling offensive plays, who is known as a defensive mind, calling offensive plays with Mac Jones, yeah, no reason we had the shitty success that we did. I mean, not that we're doing any better this season, so who knows? It does take 1 week to turn it all around, and it might come at the expense of the Jets, but who really knows? But this is just one of the things you gotta do when you're playing fantasy football. Top waiver wire pickups have been, like I said, Jerome Ford, Kyron Williams, like I said, going back to the Cam Akers thing, being traded away to Minnesota makes Kyron Williams the man. If he's a free agent in your league, I doubt it. Go pick him up. If Jerome Ford is a free agent in your league, go pick him up. We do know the number 1 pickup so far has been undoubtedly Puka Nacua. Yes, the absence of Cooper Kupp in that offense means Matthew Stafford has to throw to somebody. He's chosen Puka Nacua. Absolutely has been lights out. I think he's recorded the most receptions in the first 2 games for the rookie that we've ever seen. So I think he totaled about 20, if I'm not mistaken, in just 2 weeks, or maybe 30. But regardless, no matter how you spit it, Puka Nacua is showing why he was drafted. I'm not sure where exactly he was drafted, but no matter what, the Rams chose him, and they chose wisely. They got themselves a very good investment in Puka Nacua. Not only that, Tutu Atwell is following that up with playing some solid football as well. Tutu Atwell doesn't get the love that he deserves just because of how much Puka's blown up. But let me tell you, I had to go and pick up Tutu in both of my fantasy leagues, not to mention that. Puka Nacua reading off his stats. No, not Puka. We're going off of Tutu's stats. Tutu went out and got, I'm going to pull it up for you guys. This is also ESPN Fantasy League, so I know a lot of leagues vary. And I am a part of not only ESPN Fantasy Leagues, but the Fantasy Football app and also Yahoo Fantasy. So definitely got to show love to all of those. But going back to Tutu Atwell, Tutu garnering 119 yards in week 1 off of 6 catches. Follows that up with a 7-catch, 77-yard performance. Yes, Tutu Atwell is definitely the complementary piece to Puka Nacua. How that all decides to shape up once their star Cooper Kupp returns, that remains to be seen. But it should be interesting because you have guys who are stepping up and filling those big shoes. So let's see how they want to manage that. Matthew Stafford was kind of outed by his wife in saying that he doesn't know how to communicate with the younger crowd, so his younger teammates, but it kind of looks like that was all bullshit because Puka Nacua is a rookie and they're clicking. They're clicking, let me tell you that. But at the end of the day, it is a week by week thing if you're talking fantasy. But if you're talking the NFL and you're talking real football out on the field, you can't take Puka off. You can't take Puka off the field as soon as Cooper Kupp comes back. You can't kill that kind of momentum. No, you got to ride that to the fullest of its potential because there is potential. There are other rookie receivers that are in the league that have yet to make that big splash that we expected. Jackson Smith and Jigba. So he may be forced to fill in that big void that's going to be, filled in the shoes of DK in case he can't go this week, dealing with some rib issues. But DK is tough as nails, so he just might be on that field on Sunday. Might not be anything to worry about, but regardless, you do need JSN out there on that field. Jordan Addison from the Minnesota Vikings is also proving capable of being the number 2 man behind the gritty boy himself, Justin Jefferson. Yes, Justin Jefferson does need some help. He can't be the only guy out there catching passes because the defenses are starting to figure that out. So what do? You go get TJ Hawkinson, who's been blowing up as well. TJ's been a great add since mid last season, leaving Detroit to go to this high octane offense, which hasn't showed out the way that we thought they would. I believe they're also another 0-2 team. So with that kind of star power, it looks like losing Dalvin Cook hurt them a lot because they can't get that run game going for the life of them. Alexander Madison is not proving to be the lead back they thought he was, so they went out and they got Cam Akers to give him some competition. We'll see how that unfolds because the Rams weren't too high on Cam Akers, so we'll see how the Minnesota Vikings want to view him, if he really is the kind of star that they drafted him to be, but just hasn't had the opportunity to showcase it. How the touches get split is also up in the air too. How do you treat them? Who's the pass catching back? Who's the goal line back? Who gets the 3-down work? But at the end of the day, it's just the nature of the beast, having to put pieces together in the puzzle. And luckily, I'm just here to kick back and just watch it every Sunday or Monday or Thursday, depending. But regardless, going back to my fantasy teams, like I said, Deshaun Watson leading that way, Mixon and Stevenson at the the running back committee. I do have Tyreek Hill and a plethora of receivers to get behind him, like Michael Pittman, who I haven't really trusted to be in my starting lineup. I believe this will be the first time. This is the second time he is in my starting lineup. So, second time in 3 weeks, and I hope he shows out. Pittman garnering 8 catches for 55 yards last week after giving, hold on here because it was impressive, 8 catches for 97 yards and a touchdown in week 1. So this is just the kind of shit that happens when you play fantasy football. You go from being on the pedestal to getting your ass humbled in the next week. So being 5-0 to being 0-5 now, a 5-5 through my first 2 weeks out here, and it's been rough. It's been rough. It hasn't been smooth sailing the way I thought it would be, but rounding out this group, Evan Ingram is a capable tight end. I believe he is one of Trevor Lawrence's top targets in times of trouble. We've seen it. He is consistent. He gets at least 5-6 targets a game. He is a red zone threat as well as a big man. He's capable. He does tend to have that injury bug plague him, but through 3 weeks, still healthy, balling out, playing, and being a complementary piece to that wide receiver group led by Calvin and Christian Kirk and Zay Jones. And whoever's going to get that hot hand this week, they do have a tough test playing Houston. Like I said, Houston's kind of scrappy, but they can also get blown out. Let's see what kind of route the Jags want to take against them. I do have Isaiah Pacheco starting this week in the flex. Kansas City's running back, but a little bit injured, a little bit dinged up. Still kind of expected to play depending on how today's practice goes. I believe it is a hamstring issue. So those can linger, those can bite you. But I do expect Pacheco to be on the field on Sunday, at least in God's name. I hope he is. And I am changing defenses like I change clothes almost daily. And I am riding with the Chiefs defense this week, having a nice, easy 2-week offensive matchups. Having to go against the Bears this week, who've been very disappointing through 2 weeks. We know Justin Fields is better than what he's shown. Went out, called out the coaching, saying that he's playing robotic, and he acknowledged it. And kind of not pointed the finger because it was said by the GM that they didn't blame him and there was no finger pointing, but kind of pointing the finger at the coaching staff and saying that they're not giving him the plays that he should be getting, and it's not allowing him to reach his maximum potential, and incorporating guys like DJ Moore, who we thought was going to be way more involved in this offense, has yet to be that. And we're seeing him throw to Chase Claypool a bit more than we see him throwing it to DJ Moore. That shouldn't be the case. And you've yet to establish that ground game. Khalil Herbert is a good running back. Not great, not a stud, but he's good enough. But you trust Justin Fields too much with those legs. Yes, he can throw too. We know that, and I'm not gonna just tab him as a running quarterback, but he does need to start playing a lot better. For whatever reason, he's not. But those Bears, if they want to be competitive, there was so much hope for them this season. We thought they were going to be the talk of the town after all this hype, after Justin Fields was basically on a redemption tour this season, and it's not panning out the way they thought in Chi-Town. But it is what it is, and they do have a tough task at hand with the Kansas City Chiefs. Like I said, picked up that KC defense after dropping the Cleveland Browns defense just based off schedule. The Chiefs got Chicago, like I said, this week. Next week, they face Zach Wilson and the Jets. Had it been A-Rod on that team, it'd be a big of a different story. But for now, I'm going to ride this Chiefs defense for the next 2 weeks, see what happens till they face a tougher offense. Obviously, that's just the way to go. That's the strategy. But I have yet to see Christian Watson take the field, another guy on my bench who's been on my bench. It looks like it's going to be 3 weeks now. So Christian Watson, whenever you're ready, bro, with that hammy issue, please get out there and help. And please help Jordan Love. Jordan Love has been explosive through these 2 weeks. He's been absolutely, it seems unstoppable. He is making plays that we didn't think. He is just showing why the Green Bay Packers had so much faith in him. And he's proving Green Bay fans right. And he is absolutely crapping on all the naysayers who thought that it was not a smart idea to get Jordan Love to back up Aaron Rodgers. Who would have thought this guy would be a stud? I'm sure a lot of people did, but Jordan Love is here. It is Jordan Love time in the city of cheese. Yes, Green Bay, they got their man. It seems they got their man. Let's see if he can keep it up. He's got to go against the New Orleans Saints. Who dat nation? Yes, it is a tough defense, but it has been exploitable this season at times, and it is a team capable of losing. So let's see if Jordan Love is for real. Let's see if he can put together a nice third straight offensive solid performance. And let's see if Christian Watson can get on that field to give him some help. Romeo Doubs helped out week 1. We also saw Reed step up in week 2. So whoever wants to come out of that and help out, maybe Christian Watson turns in a 2 touchdown performance as he steps on the field, because it just seems like that's a trend. Aaron Jones looks to be returning after missing last week. AJ Dillon just couldn't fill those shoes. I mean, was just god awful and on my team, but shit, it happens. AJ Dillon just needs to take that seat back, needs to take that step back, needs to reevaluate who the hell he is, and when he gets his other opportunity, when he gets his next chance, he better not fold if he wants to be the man, because Aaron Jones's clock is ticking, and they drafted him for a reason, to take that place, and at this rate, he's just not gonna do that. So we'll see. But rounding out that bench of mine on Team Ramon 1, yes, fuck it, Ramon 1, that is the point of my name. But like I said, Tutu Atwell out there. Nico Collins has been a stud through 2 weeks. Last week, giving me a 20-point performance. 27, excuse me, after a 14-point performance in week 1. Nico was the complementary piece to Brandon Cooks last season. Now the man. He does have Bobby Trees, Robert Woods to help him out there. You do have Tank Dell. Like I said, John Michi's there, but you do got to work him in slowly based off of everything that's happened and his health. But Tank Dell filling that. You got Nico Collins being the man there. You got Robert Woods being consistent. CJ Stroud's got some weapons. CJ Stroud can run that on his own, and they're figuring out ways to go around and stay competitive. Obviously, week 1, they kind of weren't, but week 2 we saw them a little bit more. Like I said earlier in the show, CJ Stroud is proving to learn this game week in and week out, and he is progressing. He is not decreasing in his ability. He's absolutely excelling every single week. So we'll see. He had to shake off a bit of a shoulder injury, so he looks to be good. He looks to return to full participant in practice. My apologies. But look to see him out on that field and leading the Houston Texans offense. It should be a good match. It could be a blowout, but other guys like Samaje Perine yet to have their chance, because Javonte Williams for now is playing like Denver thought he would. He's doing his best. He's getting more of a workload every single week when they're giving him, or they're getting more and more confident in him to give him this kind of workload after that injury he suffered last season. Took him out all year, basically. And now full healthy, at least that we know of, he is getting his chance to shine in Denver, trying to lead that backfield with Russell Wilson, who has yet to show that he was worth the money spent, and Sean Payton is going to try to be the man to get him back to that level of relevancy that we saw him. He was a Super Bowl participant, but as we know how that story went, not so good. But Russell Wilson definitely still has some juice left in the tank. He's got talent. Courtland Sutton, he's got Jerry Jeudy, so they need to figure it out. They look to return to the 305. They're going to face the Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins in front of their home crowd for the first time this season. Took them week 3 to do it, but they are here finally, and it will be a showdown at 1 o'clock at Sunlight Stadium. I'm sorry, Sunlight Stadium, my ass. Hard Rock Stadium, yep, here in Miami Gardens, Florida. So Dolphins Broncos could be an offensive showcase, or it just could be defensive fireworks all around. But I do expect Tyreek Hill to be an open man almost the entire game, because I don't think he can be contained by Patrick Surtain. Patrick Surtain II, definitely a stud in this league, but can't match that speed of Tyreek Hill and the absolute athleticism that Tyreek Hill has. As much as I can't necessarily stand Tyreek Hill for the comments that he made about the Patriots fans, calling us some of the worst in the league, calling us the worst in the league, if I'm not mistaken, were his words in verbatim. said stuff that, he wouldn't even say in church. But I'll digress on that one, and I'll keep it as nice as I humanely can, because he is a part of a lot of my fantasy football teams. So that is going to do it for that. But I also went and acquired Kendre Miller, rookie running back from the New Orleans Saints, who's going to possibly lead that backfield this week now that Jamal Williams is trending towards not playing. It will be, oh my god, I just had Kendre Miller's game, or Kendre Miller's backfield to lead, but he will have some competition, and he will have to split touches with Tony Jones Jr., who turned in a 2-touchdown performance last week. Not big on the yardage, but was the goal line back, so he got his goal line working, and he turned in the solid performance solely based off that, so he was able to produce when they needed him to. So good on you, Tony Jones. Now you've made it a competition here. It was Kendre Miller's week. Next week, you got to incorporate Alvin Kamara into that offense. He looks to return after a 3-game suspension for beating somebody senseless in Vegas. But I'll digress on that one. Alvin Kamara, he's going to turn that offense around. It depends what kind of Alvin Kamara we get. If we get the Alvin Kamara from last season, maybe not so much. If we get the Alvin Kamara from a couple seasons ago, then damn, it is going to be trouble for anybody who's playing Who Dat Nation, because that defense can lock in a heartbeat. They are capable of shutting you down week in and week out if they want to. But like I said, they are very susceptible to the big play, and you can turn it on them in a dime. But that is going to round out my fantasy football talk for Team Ramon 1. But my other ESPN Fantasy Football League, Team Ridley's, believe it or not, like I mentioned, that receiving core, Tyreek Hill, Calvin Ridley, you got Josh Jacobs. I did have to spend a pretty penny because it is an FAAB league, meaning that you do get free agency money to bid for free agents, and now we have incorporated it to the point where you can even trade free agent money, or waiver wire money, however you want to phrase it. But I had to spend a pretty penny to get the likes of Jerome Ford. Yes, you gotta spend money to make money, and this could be an investment that pays off in the long run. We'll see, because now that Kareem's there, it might take some of the workload off of him. However, I do believe this will be the week that he does lead them. I don't think Kareem's ready just yet to get back into the swing of things, so expect Jerome Ford to lead that against Tennessee. Tennessee, I believe they're rated the first ranked defense against the running back position, but that is a pretty shaky defense altogether. They don't have many star playmakers, so like I said, kind of like the Saints, susceptible to the big run, the big play. You can take a chunk out of them, and you can make it very competitive. Tight end in that league, you got Pat Freiermuth. Pat, you've been not the guy that I needed you to be, but a very thin position calls for that. You got to take risks sometimes. And an offense that I expected a little bit more out of, he's just not giving it to me for Steeler Nation. Deontay Johnson now expected to be out for at least 4 weeks. Maybe they give him some love, but just look for George Pickens to completely eat away at all those targets that Deontay Johnson is leaving out there on the table. George Pickens is absolutely phenomenal, and he turned in one hell of a game last week in the absence of Deontay Johnson. So Kenny Pickett, if you're watching this shit, please look for George Pickens, because that man is the man, and he just may be the one in the Steel City. So I do think George Pickens should get a lot more love. I know the majority of leagues already have him, but if he is a free agent for some odd reason, go get him. Go get George Pickens. That guy is a mammoth of a man, capable of making massive plays and catching passes that are beyond his reach or beyond the reach of the ordinary man. This guy's not ordinary at all in any means. But going back, T-Law, Trevor Lawrence does lead that. Like I said, I like to do that pairing. The quarterback and wide receiver gives you that double point game, especially if they go off that week. But T-Law going with Calvin Ridley for me. That's a tough match. Like I said, against Houston, it's an on and off kind of thing for that defense. but Josh Jacobs is there. Danny Jones kind of shit on me giving me a 3-point game yesterday, but plenty of time to turn that around. Saints defense I have, so going against Green Bay, going against Jordan Love, and it's going to be a show. Who knows? Can they humble Jordan Love after that impressive start that he's on right now? We'll see. But Jake Moody, kicker for the San Fran 49ers, dropping 12 points for me in that league. Team Ridley's, believe it or not, appreciates you, Jake Moody, going 3 for 3 on the field goals, going 3 for 3 on the extra points. Man, oh man, giving me 12 points kind of kept me afloat after that shit show from Danny Jones, but also having to compete with the likes of Debo on the other side. Debo giving my good friend Mike Augie 26.1 points on Thursday night, so already down bad, but plenty of time to turn it around. I got the playmakers, I believe, to turn it around, so who really knows, and I can only hope for the best. But swinging it back into the league that we discussed so much with my two special guests, yes, the league headed by my boy Nick Headband Gang White, that is led by Tua Tagovailoa. Yes, Tua and his boy Tyreek Hill are my two main men, but you also have the rest of the lineup with Stephon Diggs, Jerry Jeudy. You got Joe Mixon in this league as well, Raheem Mostert, who decided to take off last week, and you got the likes of Aaron Jones there. Will he play? Won't he? Who knows? But Dalvin Cook sitting there on my bench with Kendrick Bourne and Romeo Doubs. Kendre Miller's there as well. I have JSN in that league, so who knows? It can shape up to go either way, and it is going to be a tough matchup as I have to play. I'm looking right here. I'm going against Nick. So there's, I thought there was a reason why I was speaking so much about him, and it's because we got to go one-on-one. So I can make this deal with you if you're watching this. If I beat you this week, you have to be a guest on Hustle and Harmonies. So if you want to make that deal with me, you know how to reach me, Nick. So we'll get it done. But Nick does have a tough team, I'm not going to lie. This boy is a Detroit Lions fan. So when I do say the names that he has, you're going to see it. But Amon Ra, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, Jared Goff, Josh Reynolds, and Sam Laporta. I'm sorry, Seth. Oh, it is Sam Laporta. I was right. So having at least a total of 6, if I counted correctly. Or no, that's 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. That is 6 total Lions players on his team. So I'll be damned. Does he love Detroit? That is his city. He will tell you himself when he decides to get on this show. But he does have Travis Kelce on his team to go with Mike Evans and Jalen Hurts. So can go on all day about this team. I can drool over it. I can do whatever I gotta do. But it's a solid team. Jumping into one of my other teams, we will see here Deshaun Watson having to lean on his ass again in this league. So this team I decided to name after him. It is called Massage Envy. Yes, Team Massage Envy, looking to go 2-1. This is every league that I'm in now, looking to go 2-1 basically. But this team also features Roll Tide Josh Jacobs, so there's a reason why I keep speaking about him as well. But I have Travis Kelce in this league, so I want to see him do good, but I don't want to see him do that good that I can't overcome it. But T. Higgins definitely, like I spoke about, had that 7 target, 0 reception game in week 1. Steps up and I believe goes for a touchdown or 2 in week 2. So let's see. He got my trust. He gets my start this week to go along with Devontae Adams, who I said has been the man in Las Vegas. No shock there. He was the man last season for Derek Carr. He's the man here for Jimmy G. But the running game also finished by Alexander Madison, who I've spoken about already. No need to keep going over him. Jared Goff is here in this league for me. Another super flex league. Had to throw him in there as my quarterback too. So Deshaun and Jared Goff have done their jobs. They've done their part. Jared Goff hasn't given me a single-digit performance just yet, but it's trending that way because he had a shaky week 2 after such a great week 1. But let's see, he can pick up some steam going against a pretty soft Atlanta defense. But I know I'll talk that, and Atlanta will decide to lock that Detroit offense down. So I'll digress for that, just because, for my mental health. And you do have the New Orleans Saints defense, who I rely on so heavily. And I look forward to them hopefully containing Green Bay, because I will not start Jordan Love, who is my quarterback on the bench in that league. I will hold on to him for the time being until he can prove that this is a consistent thing, because I know I tend to jump the gun, and whoever's riding, I want to ride that hot hand along with them, and I will start them, and they will just absolutely devour me emotionally and not do anything that I need them to. So the nature of the beast of fantasy, guys. And for that, you got Michael Pittman Jr. also on my team. I know I've spoken about him already, but George Pickens is on my team there. For some odd reason, somebody wanted to drop him in that league. Had to go in there and scoop him up. I don't know how you can be so naive and so, I'm not going to use the mean word, but just how you can let a talent like that just sit on free agency, and nobody else wanted to claim him, so I went out there and claimed him. It's not a league that I own a lot of running backs in, so it's kind of scary, because running backs, the big theme of today has been they've been dropping like flies. So, my mentality is it's only a matter of time till one of mine is next. And David Montgomery got that injury bug, but it's not a serious injury, enough to keep him out at least this week, possibly the next as well. But I do have the weapons to fill that hole. Hopefully Alexander Madison wants to wake up. But like I said, also the kicker in that league, Jake Elliott. You see the recurring theme here. But that will be enough of my teams. I will stop gloating and crying over them, because I only have so much time in my day, and this show can only be so long before you guys stop being entertained by it. So with that being said, that is going to do it for Fantasy Football Chat. Well, guys, it's about that time. I have run out of things to say. I hope you've enjoyed this show. Again, I want to give a special shout out to my special guest, Tony, my Jets fan, Ricky, my Cowboys fan. Guys, if you want to be on the show, I'm not hard to reach. Just hit me up. Send me your videos. I want to do these overreacting videos to all NFL teams, all fantasy teams. Just share with me. You can vent, you can cry. This is a safe space. If you are a sports fan, if you're a music fan, tune in. I got something for you next week, because a certain somebody is expected to drop a certain album relatively soon, if he hasn't done so already. Haven't really checked, but I haven't deprived you, Harmoniez. I'm there. Don't worry about it. Hasn't been too much to talk about in the world of music. But like I said, send me your videos. Reach out to me. Follow me on Instagram, Karina Nick 05. Please reach out to me. Send me your videos on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe. Until then, guys, you know what it is. Peace. To the next episode.